Welcome to It's the Muppet Show podcast. I'm Heather.
I'm Jason.
Today we're watching Season 1, Episode 6 with our very special guest star, Jim Nabors. This originally aired on September 27th, 1976 in the U.S., in New York specifically.
I will add that the UK premiere date was September 26, 1976.
So they're starting to line up a little.
Oh, it was my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday!
September
Happy birthday,
26,
Jim Nabors.
1976, I was 1. So I didn't catch this one live.
You may have,
but I don't
You probably
remember
did.
I honestly probably was there for it, but I don't remember it.
Cool.
So this episode is another one on Disney Plus that has the cultural disclaimer, or the warning.
Yep. Includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and they're wrong now. It's something that I saw on the internet that I thought was actually really cool and kind of put these disclaimers in perspective. Was this author. His name is Andrew P. Street. He's based in Australia, in Sydney. He was a music writer for a long time. I think he still is. Anyway, so he was talking about how he interviewed Brian Eno a bunch of years ago. And one of the things that Brian Eno said about streaming music really stuck with him was that Brian's daughters were listening to stuff streaming and it was all sorts of eras without any idea of genre or timeline or context because it's all equally available.
Right.
Everything is in the present.
Sure. Yep.
So you're not watching this like we're watching this from the perspective of, yes, we watched this in the 70s and the 80s. And so we can put that into our own personal timeline.
Right.
But to a kid coming into this or a young adult coming into this is now. Right. Everything is like out of time, which I think is a very cool thing to be like, okay, like we understand that the Muppets are culturally important and we don't want to take those things away from it. But we also need to acknowledge that this was a different time.
Well,
you do need to understand that like this was the 70s and things were different.
Right.
Well,
I think that's why they chose to still make it available because people have been asking for it or wanting it for a long time. But that's why they put the disclaimer up, so it do exactly what it says, start conversations, like, and hopefully, it does just that. And it is kind of like weird to see some of this stuff or hear some of this stuff with today's lens on it.
Yeah. I think it's important.
I
think it's important to see both of those things. And I just thought that you just look him up, Andrew P. Street. It was, there's more to that statement, but it just talks about everything being in the present and just kind of putting that context and putting that timeline in place. And I thought it was a really good take on it. It's like, we're not a hysterical cancel society. We are actually just trying to put our culture in a timeline.
Right. Which is kind of hard to do sometimes, for sure.
Yeah.
But what do you remember about Jim Nabors?
So I grew up definitely watching the Andy Griffith Show a lot.
Absolutely.
So I totally remember the Gomer Pyle character.
Sure.
He was that that constant guest star, Love Boat and Carol Burnett, like all of these, like he just always was appeared. He must have been super fun to work with, I imagine, just because he shows up everywhere.
He really does. I seem to remember, he had a musical career on top of acting, and I seem to remember my grandparents having one of or more of his albums. And they're of a type for sure. Yeah. Something that older people would have been listening to at that time. It's show tunes and opera and
Yeah, he's got a really beautiful voice.
Yeah, he's got a voice.
Yeah,
he sure does.
It's one of those things, like it's those funny things where he plays this like hick character.
Yeah.
He's from Arkansas or something?
Alabama.
So you just kind of like typify him. These stereotypes are wrong, but
yep. And there's definitely a fair amount of that in this episode. Not the kind of like wrong stereotyping, but like the it made me think of Hee Haw again. I may bring that up again later, but it's like maybe it's just like like that hillbilly humor was like kind of like a thing.
Absolutely.
Around this
And
time,
yeah,
you know?
and I've said it before, I didn't like Hee Haw then.
Nope.
It, being, very much a New England kid, that stuff didn't like track with me.
Sure.
And the hick stereotype just was not something that I got into.
Well, it's hillbilly. It's
Hillbilly.
different than hick. Like we would know from hicks.
True. True. Yeah. I guess the southern hick, the hillbilly.
Yeah, it's different. It's a little different.
It's
But
different.
That's, like as you mentioned, he was on the Andy Griffith Show, which came out in 1960, where he played basically just kind of like an awkward bumpkin Gomer Pyle.
Little doofus.
But the character became so popular, he actually got a spin-off show from the Andy Griffith Show,
Which I don't remember
Gomer
watching.
Pyle USMC, which started in 1969, where he starts to really hit for me, and I wish I remembered him more. He was on the Croft Super Show, which was a Saturday morning TV show, which was it ran from 76 to 78, but it was definitely in syndication.
And we
on
talked about this
ABC,
before.
and yeah,
he was
when
the
we were
co-star with Ruth Buzzy
Ruth
on the
Buzzy.
Lost Coaster.
Lost
Saucer, sorry.
Yep. It was Fee and Fum were the two androids, and he played the Fum android. And it was described basically as Gomer Pyle in outer space. So he didn't really, he didn't really go too far out of that character. As I mentioned, he had a recording contract with Columbia Records, which started in 1965. Most of his music was, like I said, either romantic ballads or show tunes or whatnot. In later years, if you were a NASCAR or Indy fan, he would sing Back Home Again in Indiana at every year's Indy 500 race from 1972 to 2014, which is pretty impressive.
And I wonder, so he was really into Hawaii. He ended up moving from he moved from Bel Air to Hawaii in 1976, so around this time. He just wanted to be away from it all in Hawaii, but also that makes me wonder if he was friends with Jimmy Buffett and that whole
Jeez. You know, put that
Hunter S.
on.
Thompson crew. Like,
That
was
on
he
him,
rolling
huh?
with those guys? Yeah.
I'll mention that I didn't realize this, I guess I don't really even pay too much attention to that anyways, or would when I was a kid. He was a semi-closeted performer. He ended up marrying his partner from the 70s, Stan Calderwaller.
Yeah, that's a hard name.
Called
Wallader.
Wallader. When gay marriage became legal, they went out to Washington, and during that kind of like
I would have cried a lot.
first wave of gay marriages.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, happiness, like, that's just the sweetest thing. Like, they've been together since the mid 70s or early 70s. That's adorable.
And I guess we haven't really mentioned this before, but I mean, he is sadly no longer with us. He passed in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess it's a good time to start this. Start the episode up. We feel like we did a lot of talking.
Yes, sorry about that.
All right, it's the Muppet Show. It's a pretty standard. It is the standard opening here. Yep. I'll never
The ears.
ever get tired of it. It does change though, right? Slightly. I think the end of it kind of changes.
Yeah,
where they
once
have,
we
like,
get that
tiered-
tiered. So when they, I don't know what that thing's called, the facade, the kind of Colosseum-esque facade.
Right, right. Oh yeah. 'cause
I don't know when that comes in.
It moves from like the Busby Berkeley sort of tiered cake look to the lit archways with the characters in it. So Kermit here, beginning here, he introduces Jim. He's being mobbed by the standard Muppet cadre. Oh, the Fozzie jokes in the opening about his
he doesn't have a
cousin
gong.
being so thin that he paints his head gold and rents himself out as a flagpole. Interesting.
Gonzo's gong is missing, like the O is not filled in, so he just uses his head as a gong.
Yeah, no drum head, so he used his own head.
I need to minimize this.
So at the beginning here, we have a weird kind of like canon thing where Kermit, we have a weird sort of canon thing where Kermit mentions the name of the theater that they're playing in. And he mentions that it's the Benny Vandergast Memorial Theater. I don't really say that too much outside of this episode.
Who's Benny Vandergast?
Well, we don't know.
Really?
We don't know. I thought Scooter's uncle owned the theater.
He owns the theater, but it's not like
It's the
his Memorial Theater.
Yeah. So the first act here, right off the bat, we have Dr. Teeth. And, okay, anytime...
He's sparkly as hell in this one.
Yes. Yeah. I never really noticed the dangling earring. Mm-hmm. Wow.
He always has it.
Yep.
I notice things.
Anytime you have any member or the whole Electric Mayhem, I'm a happy man.
Yeah.
And Dr. Teeth, he's doing solo performance here, and he's playing the song Money, which is a Stan Freberg song. It's an older song, it's pretty obscure, but the Muppets do have a slight history with this song. Jim performed it on Sam and Friends, which was his Baltimore show back in the day. It was Rolf and I think Baskerville. I'm not sure on 100% on that, but I believe that was the duo.
And it is just all about money, so I think they're playing up that bling, so it's very sparkly.
Money. I mean, the lyrics are great, honestly. But the visual gag is on his piano, which he is hammering on. There's like a...
He's eating the money.
He's eating the money, but there's like a roulette, like a slot machine arm. He's yanking on that one-arm bandit.
Oh,
So
Dr. Teeth.
we're backstage. He is toweling off.
Tugga thinks he's a hip dude.
Yep.
And she's like his groupie now.
Absolutely. Okay, so this backstage through line.
So this is the first time Scooter shows up. So this is why you see this out of order.
Right.
So Scooter's been here before, but now he's showing up saying, "I'm your new gopher."
Right, and that's just because of the weird release order. There was
Exactly.
a production order and a release order. So we've seen Scooter, but this is the first, like, where he's like, okay, hey, this is
He's
who I
introducing
am.
himself for the
He's
first
like,
time.
Yeah, and you know what? His motives are kind of whack right off the bat. Because
He's
not,
way more conniving in this.
Yeah, he's like, listen, my uncle owns this place, so I'm pretty
Just
much
really
gonna,
casually.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't like me? Hey, my uncle owns this place.
I'm pretty much going to do what I want. Kermit's like, I don't have enough money for this. I don't even know who you are. And eventually, Scooter ends up getting $30 a week out. And I just have a quick note. What is Scooter? You know what I mean? Is he a man? Is he a humanoid? I'm just not sure.
He's
He's played by
humanoid.
Richard Hunt. He's a fantastic performer. So we have a talking house skit. Really
He's a real
fast.
country. Oh no! We have the intro. Sorry, go ahead.
We have a talking house skit, which was really fast. The punchline was basically one house reveals that his wife has the shingles. And that's basically all the talking houses is. Just one-liner and one-liner.
Nobody
And they
wants to hear stories about you having shingles. I can
Bad joke.
attest to
Bad
this.
joke. So we have Jim Nabors here. Doing
Classic hee-haw, sort of moody hee-haw set.
Yep, we got a little windmill, or like a farm windmill, and a fence set up. And he is singing the song "Gone with the Wind."
And this you really get to experience the power of his voice, which is like very impressive. But also with some gags.
I'm gonna say it's not for everyone. You know, you have to really like opera.
No, but you can respect the fact, like, there's a lot of musicians that I don't actually like their singing voice, but I absolutely respect the fact that they are very good at what they do.
Right. Yeah.
Jim Nabors is definitely on that list.
Right. And as I get older, I start to appreciate more things like musicals, and I haven't hit the opera years yet. But so he's singing the song, like as I mentioned, "Gone with the Wind," which has nothing to do with the movie Gone with the Wind, but it is a 1937 song written by Ali Rubel, probably best known for being an Oscar winner for writing Zippity Doo Dah, an extremely problematic song at this point. But the visual gag with the Muppets is the wind is blowing so hard, it is blowing this
His love interest away.
Right. She's making some... Okay, the whole set's kind of breaking down at this point. Jesus. Okay. He's standing up to the power of the wind. He's basically battling the wind with his operatic voice. And it's getting pretty crazy.
I want a Muppet Ranch sign.
Yeah, that's pretty hot. Pretty hot collectible there. I will point out that this song was also performed by Guy Smiley on Sesame
Really?
Street.
Huh.
And various other Muppets throughout, or Sesame Street characters throughout the
They realized
years.
that they really like that running gag.
Yeah, it's the wind, I think. Yeah,
And it's like talking about like the blackness of his heart. Like it's a dark song.
it really is. Okay, she's lost her hair and she's out of here. And he's lost his pants.
Oh, the classic
Polka dotted
boxers.
under drawers. Yeah.
That's a classic. Why is that a classic?
I don't know what the polka dots.
Yeah, why is that a trope? Polka dotted boxers.
It is though. Maybe not so much
It's a
anymore,
real good
but
sport.
it certainly
It's a real
was.
good singer.
Yeah, Statler and Waldorf they like him. They seem like
He's a real good neighbor.
His sort of genre. We got a Muppet News flash. Okay.
You're starting to see his eyes more.
Oh, he doesn't have the glasses still.
No, but
Still
it's
no
not like he was
glasses.
really squinty before.
Well, it was a hard news day that episode. Okay, And again, this is another Muppet News flash where the guest is involved, okay? This time, they're not going far from the...
No, this is classic Gomer Pyle in that little...
Right. He, the Muppet Newsman interviews Billy Lee Boomer about a flying saucer he sighted at his gas station. Basically Gomer Pyle, you know what I mean? He's really leaning into that character. And with the UFO thing, it made me think, was like, okay, was this like the year Close Encounters came out?
No, it's while he's filming the Lost Saucer.
Oh, right, because Close Encounters was the next year. So we're backstage again with the Scooter through line. Scooter's bringing Kermit his coffee as promised, as one of his duties, but spills it on him. Kermit
And then makes him like put an act in the show.
strong-arming him
Yeah.
again. That he's like, oh, well, you know what? My uncle really likes this act. And Kermit's like, yeah, let's fine. You've already got $30 a week out of me.
Yeah. This is like the champion of like the passive-aggressive power move.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you know what? It's ugly.
It is ugly.
Yeah. So the act that Scooter was campaigning for, in lieu of his uncle, is the Dance Arrows.
Which is this.
The Dance Arrows. Okay, so what I like now about Jim, or can appreciate more about the Muppets in general, where they were always trying to do really interesting types of puppetry. It wasn't always like the straightforward, like, hey, a single hand up in a puppet. The Dance Arrow is a pretty complex puppet.
Yeah.
And it was actually, I don't know if they used like a sort of like blackout sort of chroma key thing with him or not.
They did that a lot. That was definitely so. The Dance Arrow is just this pom-pom with 4 legs, and that's the 4 legs is where the puppetry's
Right,
happening.
I should have mentioned that was the skit. They were dancing. The Dance Arrows were dancing to a song, Black-Eyed Susan Brown, which is again a pretty obscure song. That type of puppetry is bunraku, and it's the style of puppet that uses the chroma key sort of blackout sort of thing.
Neat.
One last thing about Black-Eyed Susan Brown, it was the B-side to Sweet Georgia Brown.
Huh. Moving on, we have Jim Nabors and Animal.
I didn't realize they call this a blackout scene, where it just it cuts to black and then opens on like a random...
Like no transition.
set.
We're
Right,
just
right.
over here.
Yep, Jim tells Animal to break a leg. Animal helps Jim out by smashing him in the leg, misery style with a hammer. All right, we're backstage again with Scooter. We've got George the janitor here. You know what? George is not going to be strong-armed into dealing with Scooter's uncle. George is
The
not...
roof leaks, the seats are torn, the furnace is on the fritz.
Yeah, George basically starts complaining about the theater immediately until he finds out it's Scooter's uncle who's the owner. And then he's got a different tune.
Your uncle's got a good head on his shoulders, unlike most of the people around here.
And
then headless
Visual
Muppet goes
gag. Yep. Headless Muppet.
in the maroon tuxedo.
They love it. It's burnt like a wine. Yep. So we're at the dance. Classic at the dance. I think they should have stuck with that, the dance. I really like it.
Yeah.
So the main thrust of this one, it's the headless body kind of shows up.
Oh no, my doctor says I'm getting the Asian flu.
Okay, what?
Take 2 fortune cookies and he'd call me in the morning. That's weirdly timely. Yeah, that's one of the terrible jokes. That's the entire reason for the disclaimer at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't think it was, honestly. We have some dicier stuff coming up. But that does seem sort of insensitive right now, too soon. They could.
Oh my god, so the headless body is dancing with a
bodiless woman.
Bodiless head. I like it. Visually, I like it.
Sattler Waldorf, did they like it?
Apparently. They said Muppet 6, audience 0.
Fantastic. So we got the UK spot up here.
Which is always Rolf.
It's not. I know we've said that.
3 for
and
3.
I've tried to argue that it's not.
3 for 3 for Rolf.
You will see that it will eventually
That's
turn
fine.
the other way.
I don't mind Rolf winning.
But in this UK, I always like Rolf too. Mm-hmm. Pretty music heavy episode too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Rolf and Baskerville again. Possibly because it's the UK spot, they like Baskerville. And they're singing the song Dog Eat Dog, which in the tradition of the Muppets is a heart-wrenching song with brutal lyrics that will just, they're hard. I get the I want to go back there someday vibes off of this.
I just call these the existential crisis on a piano.
Right.
Is Rolf's segments.
And again, they're just like digging into the music catalog here. This is an extremely obscure song written by Stephen Farron. So how he probably came up on Jim's radar, he performed with an obscure musical comedy troupe in the UK at the time, and would presumably perform this song
at the same time in the 70s.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nicely done, boys.
They're good little dogs. They're good dogs.
We'll FaceTime with Kermit.
We got the talk spot here. So this talk spot's basically
all these chickens and roosters and pigs.
Yeah. And Jim mentions how he feels at home with all the barnyard life, especially Miss Piggy,
who's looking beautiful in this gauzy turquoise number.
Yeah,
that's a really nice look for her.
And the tables have kind of turned here on the guests, because normally it's Kermit having his way with whatever female guest is currently on.
Yeah,
this time it's Piggy, and she is like, she's kind of gripping him a little bit. What do you think of that tan blazer he's got?
Oh, he's like a champion of like leisure suit fashion. That's a
mustard. What kind of shirt is it? It's not a turtleneck.
No, it's a mock turtleneck. This might be an early viewing of a mock turtleneck. Jeez. That is definitely made of polyester, like a lot of polyester.
Good God! So
they're talking about their astrological signs.
Very hip.
Hip. Jim's a Gemini. He's got twin personalities.
Yeah, and Kermit reveals
because he can sing
Taurus.
Opera.
Okay, and Jim's operatic voice blasts Kermit off his little perch there,
which is exactly what it should do.
Yeah, and Kermit reveals he's a Taurus, which
I like that.
Yeah, it makes sense because his birthday is May 9th.
Yep.
Okay, we got the backstage again, and this time Fozzie's getting a word in.
I think Fozzie's a little suspicious of him, which is exactly right, because
no,
Fozzie's.
Yeah, you're right. He is very suspicious of him at first until he finds out the jokes that Scooter's been dropping on him are quite good. He's like, "Oh, hey, where'd you go, buddy? Give me a few more."
Yeah, Fozzie's definitely that like threatened personality, because his like passive aggressive stuff, like it's Scooter's passive aggressive and Fozzie's passive aggressive, like butting against each other.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is where the content warnings comes in, because we have Wayne and Wanda here after a quick introduction by Sam the Eagle, They're performing the song Indian Love Call, which...
And by Indian, they mean Native American.
Correct.
They mean Native.
So this song is a song from 1952. 52. No. So this song was originally in a operetta called Rosemary. And the interesting thing about that operetta is you get the characters played by Jeanette MacDonald and Nelson Eddy. And when you look at those characters, they're basically what Wayne and Wanda are.
Oh, nice.
So not only does this song come from that opera, we have Wayne and Wanda performing it. So the song Indian Love Call, it's as we mentioned, an opera, and it's became most popular, I guess, in 1952 when Slim Whitman released a version of it as his second single, and the song peaked at number 2 on the country charts. People our age, or maybe even younger, may remember it from the movie Mars Attacks, where it's the song that makes the Martians' heads explode.
No shit. I haven't seen that in forever. I did not realize that that's what it
so
was.
So that's the song
Pardon
that's
my
playing.
language.
No kidding. But yeah, it's just more opera, and I guess where the content warning comes in was that Wanda gets very upset when a Muppet resembling a Native American comes in, and she's visibly upset by his presence, that he was the one that was summoned by the song.
Yep. And that segment lasted 15 times longer than the actual skit.
Than the description of the skit. Yeah, it's true.
It was a very short, very classic, short Wayne and Wanda.
Classic Wayne and Wanda.
But we did want to talk about that.
Correct. A lot of opera in this episode.
I think it's important to give opera its time. Like I'm not a huge opera fan, but the people who have dedicated themselves to developing that skill are really impressive.
Truly.
And now it's Fozzie.
And before he even came on, Statler and Waldorf were laying
Heckling Kermit.
Yeah. Okay, and Fozzie's gonna try to make a deal with Statler and Waldorf. He's like, I'll sell you my best joke. Fozzie tries to make a deal with Statler and Waldorf. He says he'll tell you his best joke, and if you don't laugh, he'll never come out on stage again. What's Fozzie do? He tells his worst joke. They love it, and Statler decides that they're probably going senile.
Wow.
Either going soft or senile.
That's not a lady. That was my lunch.
Oh, the cannibal joke.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that was the worst joke.
So his worst joke involves his this girl he was walking around with actually being his lunch because he's a cannibal. It's a pretty bad joke.
Yeah, first stage is senility.
All right, next up we have a skit, and the bit is,
Rolf.
I say Rolf. Jim is playing a security guard at a bakery, and Rolf fucking breaks. Jim's playing a security guard at a bakery, and Rolf breaks in. And the whole bit with this is basically making, not making fun, but kind of making fun of Jim's accent. Because Jim tells him to put his hands up. I can't even say it. Up, and he holds up some hens. Pull
your hands up.
Hands up. And he holds up chickens. Jim asks, what rat do you have to be here? And then he presents him a rat.
Yep.
So it's just like accent.
It is the Southern stereotype.
Went back. Yeah, we'll go back to its accent-based and hillbilly humor.
Yep.
Hee Haw came out in 1969, so and still.
It was
going.
Probably leading.
Yeah, they went for 26 seasons. Hee Haw.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back to Scooter and Fozzie.
Yep, and Fozzie tells Scooter a joke. Let me tell you about my nearsighted cousin. He's so rich, his automobile is fitted with a prescription windshield. Scooter's like, okay, tell me about him. So, kind of fell a little flat there.
Mm-hmm.
Scooter's not down with it, but Scooter does tell Fozzie that he's a fan. So that makes it feel good. But Fuzzy's a little mad at the end. He's like, oh, you're lucky your uncle owns this place. So it does come back around on him. So Kermit introduces Jim, who is singing one of my favorites, Thank God I'm a Country Boy, by John Denver. And Jim is backed by the Gogolala Jubilee Jug Band, who we have seen before. Yep.
They're good.
Yep.
They've got a bunch of teeth.
He's
got the chickens.
Yep, he's in a barnyard set here.
Their feathers look really nice.
Yep, kind of multiple Camillas there. The jug band is providing backup. It's great.
He's so funny because he's such a good singer, but he's also just such a visual comedian. So he's just hamming it up.
Look at that psychedelic sunflower shirt he's got on under that denim jacket.
It's a early Hawaiian shirt.
Oh my God. So yeah, as I mentioned, he's singing "Thank God I'm a Country Boy," which of course was a #1 hit for John Denver in 1975. And this is the first appearance of any sort of John Denver material.
Really?
With the Muppets. But it will, of course, not be the last.
No. John Denver is a Muppet,
he's
just
basically
an honorary Muppet.
Correct. John Denver will be a guest star coming up on episode 401. Gosh, we got time before we get there. But, I mean, I don't even know if I have time to go through it. He recorded a Christmas album with me. He hosted a television special.
We'll save that for John Denver.
2 television specials.
We'll save that for John Denver.
Fishing. That's true. I can't just get... Basically, up until his death, sadly, John Denver
was and will always be a Muppet.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But today we're talking about Jim Nabors.
I know.
And he also kind of is a Muppet, with his comedic face.
Yep.
I think he could have had more time with them, but he
he's a busy man.
He's a busy man. Everybody wanted to hang out with him, which I love. He really just has a super cartoon face, which is great.
Absolutely. So in closing, Jim mentions to Kermit how Scooter was basically trailing him the whole time. Scooter picked up his coffee, picked up his wardrobe, even picked up his accent.
Oh, God.
Yep. Gomer Pyle sort of had a catchphrase. I mean, I'll say it. I don't know if it's wrong now. The accent, but well, golly. Can you do that?
Maybe not as a Mainer.
Well, that was his catchphrase, and Scooter definitely picked up his accent.
Yeah, Muppet Mob.
And he gets mobbed at the end. Classic Muppet mobbing. Fozzie's mugging. Kermit's chasing after Fozzie. More mugging, and then they drop into the credits. What did you think of Jim Nabors or the episode?
I think he's a strong, talented man.
Okay, I liked this episode, but I almost liked it more for what the Muppets were doing. I liked Money. I liked the musical stuff, but Jim Nabors was great, and it's more like he definitely reminds me of my childhood. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, who do we have next? We got Florence Henderson next.
Nice.
And that's going to be fantastic.
No, that's a classic TV broad.
Like I said, I think we have found ourselves in a good little spot here with guests.
Yep.
I continue to look forward to each episode.
As do I.
So thank you for joining us for more It's the Muppet Show podcast. Check us out at itsthemuppetshowpodcast.com. You can also listen and watch clips with us on YouTube at /It's the Muppet Show podcast, where you can like and subscribe us if you want.
Like and subscribe.
Till then, we'll just see you next time. Yay!